Hello, hello, and welcome to another Rise Up CX Talks. This is the podcast where we discuss ideas and strategies on how to transform experience into business growth. I'm your host, Camila Ferreira, an award winning CX leader, an international speaker, and more recently, an author of Long Live CX, available on Amazon. Today, I have the pleasure to welcome Jared Cook, the founder of Crush Churn, and more than anything, someone that really crushed churn. So, with no further ado, Jared, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, everybody. And Camila, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here. I am the founder of Crush Churn Consulting. We focus on doing that, helping customers, reduce their churn. And right now, it could not be more relevant. If you're in B2B SaaS, you're asking yourself, how do I improve retention in the face of AI threatening all software businesses? And so without exception, companies that I'm talking to right now, they are struggling on knowing why customers churn and how to stop it. And so that's really what led me to starting this organization earlier this year. I bring a lot of consulting experience. I've worked with 46% of the Fortune 100 and led post-sale teams globally at large organizations, both pre and post IPO.
Amazing. And I believe that there couldn't be a better name for your consulting firm, Crush Churn, because this is actually what you do. But today we're going to discuss something that is how to get the C-suites to care about it. Because professionals like you, like me, and many other CXers and CSers, they do care a lot. But how do we get to the boardroom? How do we get to the C-suite? So this is what this episode is about. And with no further ado, I have a few questions here for you. But I also want to invite the audience. If you have questions, please bring them on, and I will make sure that we get those questions answered. But to kick this off, let's kind of start talking about concepts, right? I believe that like in CS, in churn, as in CX, we have so many misconceptions out there. What is the biggest misconception leaders have about churn and retention?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there are a lot of misconceptions out there, especially right now. Here's the one that I hear most often. If my customer uses my product, they won't churn. In other words, adoption equals retention. That's just not true. And the truth is that, think about it this way. If you told your customers that they could achieve 100% of their desired outcomes and never log into your product, I guarantee you would retain 100% of your customers. They don't want to log into the product. So what is it that we can do in CS to shift this misconception? The old way of doing CS was focused on building relationships, driving adoption, and then retaining. That's just not sufficient anymore. So the new way of doing CS is all focused on outcomes. It's, do you know why your customer bought the product? What metrics are they trying to move? And then measure that, create a plan to achieve it. When you achieve their business outcomes, retention will just happen. So in other words, CSMs that are going to survive through this shift with AI, they will focus on outcomes, not adoption.
Wow, what a good way of starting this conversation with a blind mowing statement, right? So, wow, it's not how we thought it used to be. It is changing, it's shifting. It's very interesting that you mentioned this connection with customer metrics, because I feel like in the past, like you said, we were in this process where companies, where organizations were designing products and services and then going to markets to make customers believe they would need those products and services.
That's right. Yeah.
But that's no longer the case.
Clear. I mean, you may be listening to this and think, yeah, but we're already doing that. Like, doesn't sales already ask why you bought the product? And when I implement, aren't we implementing it already in order to achieve their outcomes? I'm going to challenge that thought. No, I don't think we do. I think what we do is we say, we sold a product. Let's turn on the product. Let's get the customer to use all the features of the product. We're very focused on what? On ourselves and our product. And that's the mindset shift is we've got to stop doing that and focus more on the customer. When you focus on the customer and their outcomes, sometimes that will mean increasing the use of your product. Sometimes it will mean using it less, and that's okay. Because if you're the one driving the outcome, then you'll accrue the value and they will retain as a result.
Absolutely. And it just reminds me that when I was still in corporate, one of the challenges I used to have was actually the relationship with the product team. I was on the trenches with the CX, with support, getting all of the feedback from clients, say, hey, this is working, this is not working, or this is what we need. And kind of taking this to product in a way that they would take actions out of this was one of my challenges. And why? Because they had their own way of getting information on what the features they would like to develop based on their studies that were not necessarily very much connected to what you just said, which is customer needs. What are the metrics the customers are trying to move in? How can we as a company, as organization, be a part of it? Right? So this is so important. Amazing. So we started in the best way possible, just kind of throwing new ideas to the audience. But you mentioned that you have worked with 46% of the Fortune 100, which is amazing to say the least. So what separates those who truly reduce churn from those who just report it?
Yeah, great question. Listen, many companies don't measure it. That's first and foremost. Like, let's just be honest. Many companies, they don't even know what their retention rate is. Okay. I would say few companies have churn reasons that they really trust. They know exactly why the customer walked out the door. And I would say very few companies can predict it. So the most successful companies, they start by measuring, not just measuring their own metrics. We're not talking about GRR and NRR. Those are great metrics. We're talking about the customer's outcomes. Very few measure that. They then, these successful companies will then do a deep dive and they'll say, okay, when a customer left, how well have we achieved their outcomes? Okay. And then lastly, they put in place a rigorous forecasting process. You think about like in sales. Okay. If you're in B2B sales, I guarantee you're having a weekly forecast call and you're being held accountable for your pipeline. How many organizations are doing the same thing for retention? Very few. So when I say, measuring the outcomes, then getting churn reasons that you trust, then predicting it through a forecast process, that is where the successful companies are finding increased retention. And sometimes we can get retention, up 50%. You imagine what that does to a bottom line when you improve retention. You're closing the hole in that bottom of the bucket like never before.
Oh, you know what? First of all, I think that whoever is watching or whoever is going to watch this later, this is such a masterclass in less than 10 minutes. So thank you very much for all of this. But I like this question very much because I experienced something similar in the area of CX. We track metrics, you call it, you name it, NPS or CSAT, but then you are tracking the metric. Oh, it improved by 10%, or it kind of changed this way or that way. But are you asking why? And are you taking actions out of the why? And the reason why I like this question very much is because I recently attended a workshop here in Miami where we discussed exactly this, of how much leaders actually track the performance just the sake of their own performance, right? So those metrics are associated with their own performance, but not necessarily to the business growth. Because for you to drive business growth, you need to go to the bottom of the problem, to the root cause, and understand what is working and what is not working. As you said, a few companies kind of a measure churn, just to start with. Of those, how many actually the reasons that they can trust? And out of those, how many actually take actions once they understand those reasons? There are completely different actions or different work streams here, different steps for you to actually crush churn, right?
Yeah. And Camilla, I'll just add one other thing on this is that, with the age of AI, the good news is not all of this has to be done manually. It used to. It used to be a very manual process to read all of the NPS surveys and read every loss report detail. And now AI can do that very well. It can summarize, it can categorize, it can flag risk automatically. Those are things that AI is great at. You know what AI is not good at? Taking action to reduce the risk. It's not good at that yet. So what do you need to do as an organization? I say that retention is a team sport. Okay. That means there's no finger pointing. And that means
Absolutely.
that all you're doing is reviewing the tapes, just like a good football team or soccer team. You go back and you watch the tapes and you say, okay, what went well? What didn't go well? Who's accountable? And how are we going to change it? That's
Yes.
it. So I would invite anybody who's listening to go and create a task force today. When I say it's a team sport, that means you should have head of product, head of support, head of onboarding, head of sales, head of marketing, all in a room, head of finance. Let's get them all talking about the customers that are at risk and what the organization will do to mitigate that. We did this recently with an organization that I consulted with. We saw immediate improvements in churn, both during implementation and post implementation. It's a game changer, and you'd be surprised at how few organizations actually play this as a team sport.
Yes. Oh, I can agree more with you. And I would extend this kind of this forum to the head of HR, because everything starts with recruiting, and then HR understanding what we are trying to solve, what is the profile, and translate this into a better job searching or profile searching is really important as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
another amazing idea on how to crush churn. It's not that complicated, right? So we can take small actions to bring people along, to bring metrics. And as you said, it's not that complicated or complex as it used to be. But with AI, it can be a lot kind of easier than before. But we need the human brain behind it, and
That's
that's
right.
what makes the difference. We can definitely leverage AI for the data sourcing, for the sentiments that is the past was harder to map and to consolidate, but nowadays a lot easier with AI. But then what are we going to do with this?
That's right. Yeah, it really comes down to action, right? Otherwise, we're just measuring vanity metrics to pat ourselves on the back and tell us that we're doing a good job. Like, it doesn't matter unless the customer says to you, you helped me achieve my goals. That's what matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Jared, then we have this forum, which I think it's really important. I used to have a similar forum at my last employer. And as you said, it helps because it enlightens the different departments at the same time. And then we can truly collaborate with people from different organizations, adding value to what is being discussed. But how do you take this to the C level? Because in my personal experience, I have seen many CXers falling short of not being able to make their way to the boardroom or making their way to the C level. So, in your view, in your experience, in addition to create those forums of bringing data, of creating this cross collaboration, what are your advice or your ideas and tips on how to take this to the C level?
Yeah, I mean, you got to speak the language that they care about, right? You got to speak the board language. And what is the board language? I'll tell you, it's not adoption. It's not MPS. I'll tell you, it's not about even like time to value. Like, what the board really cares about is increasing revenue, decreasing cost. So here's what I would recommend. First of all, quantify the true cost of churn. Often we'll say, oh, I had a $100,000 customer and that customer left. Therefore, the cost of the business was a loss of $100,000. That is so inaccurate. So first of all, you got to take into account what's the lifetime value of the customer. How often do they stay? Is it 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? Okay. Now multiply that yearly loss by your average, the average time that a customer stays with you. So now let's say that the cost was 500,000, but that's really not it either. Because if that $500,000 walked out the door, what does the business now need to do? They have to go replace that $500,000. How are they going to do that? Increasing spend in marketing and sales, which then decreases the cost of or increases your cost of acquisition, right? And that is a number that the board cares about. The board cares about CAC. The board cares about growth rate. So put this into terms that the business really understands. And if you don't know how to do that, I mean, reach out to me. I'm happy to help calculate that. But this is something that a lot of CS people, I think, fall down on. and they think very myopically about, oh, I lost this customer, therefore the dollars that they were spending with me are now gone. But that's very short-sighted.
Yeah. Oh, you touched such an important topic, which is the financial background for CS leaders or CX leaders. Again, it's not that you were losing a customer with that monthly revenue. There are so many other hidden costs, right? When you lose a customer, not to mention the brand impact. What is the size of that customer? What kind of a consequence? Because if this customer left, if this customer churned, most likely he's spreading the words to other potential customers as well. So how much are you actually losing when you lose a customer?
Yeah, that and you hit on a really good point. When customers leave, they don't often leave quietly. Now, they may not go and post online a horrible review about you, but I guarantee you, next time they're sitting down with lunch with one of their colleagues and they're talking about your solution, they're going to be honest. So customers talk when they leave. And I would say that is a hidden cost. It's a little harder to quantify, but there's research out there, that suggests that for every customer that leaves, you lose two more customers as a result of that. So now we're talking about the real cost of churn. And I think when CS people can put churn in the context that the board cares about, I have yet to meet a C-level exec who doesn't care about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, if I could leave the audience with a insightful advice, is go after people like Jared, go after tools that can help you translate what are the opportunities or what are the losses that you were experiencing into business metrics, because this is what's going to take you successfully to the boardroom. Go in there and say, hey, we are losing a customer without further information, without the financial impact. Will just make your life miserable because you're not going to be heard. You're not going to make your point. And you most likely what kind of drove that churn will keep happening because you do not have the ability to inform the right leaders what's going on and the financial impact of it. So Jared Cook, Crush Churn, look for him, and he's going to give you some other additional insights by the end of this episode. But before we get there, because we still have some time here, Jared, you often say retention is a byproduct. What is the real product then, and how do leaders build it?
The real product that we need to be offering as customer success people are business outcomes, but it's in a very one thing that I often say to my people is, like, forget about everything related to your job. Forget about the next QBR. Forget about, the support ticket. Forget about all the to-dos on your list today. There's only one thing that matters. And that one thing is the next interaction that you have with that customer. Does that customer leave feeling better about you and about the offering that you have? If the answer is yes, then you're headed to retention. If the answer is unknown or no, you're heading to churn. It's that simple. So just put yourself out there every single time. Next time you get in front of your customer, ask yourself, how do you want them to leave this conversation?
Yeah, I love that you touched what I call intentionality. So whenever you're going to meet a customer, what is the purpose? Are you focused on yourself or on the customer? Because there's a huge difference. If you are going out there just thinking of your own metrics, most likely you're not going to build a relationship that lasts. However, if you were going out there, first of all, doing your homework of understanding what is the business of these customers, what are the potential struggles, and the ideas that you can bring to the table to address those needs, then you are far ahead. And the likelihood of you building a trustworthy relationship with that person at the end of the day increases significantly. But what I most kind of see is people focusing on them. And just a parenthesis here. So recently I decided to kind of to change my car. And what I did was I went back to the dealership where I had bought my previous car. That's the normal kind of the normal action to take. When I got there, unfortunately, the salesperson who sold the previous car was no longer working with them. So I engaged with another salesperson. Jared, in the first 5 minutes, I realized that this person was mostly focused on his metrics, than on my solution, on my needs. Guess what? I walked away. I changed my car in a different dealership where I found someone that was truly focused on me. Look at this.
You can tell the difference, can't you? When you talk to somebody who has a hidden agenda,
Yes.
you know it right off of the bat. Oh, and when somebody is genuine and they're truly curious about what it is that you're looking to do, and then they get creative with you, like those are the people that last. Those are the people that stick around and that you want to buy more from.
Yeah. And guess what? I have been promoting this salesperson more than anyone else because the way he took care of me, of my needs, my family. Every time I need something, I text message him and he's there. He doesn't necessarily need to keep supporting me, but he does that by nature.
Yeah. Isn't
Right.
that
So
interesting?
he's always there when I need him. Of course, I will always get back. And this is loyalty. This is retention. This is intentionality, right? So it's kind of what is the intention that you have in a relationship? Are you mostly focused on you or in whoever you were serving? It makes a huge difference. But let's kind of bring the hot topic here because you are in Vegas, coming kind of fresh from my summit. And I am pretty sure that AI was one of the topics that was discussed, right? So we are talking about AI all day long. But from your perspective and what you have discussed in this summit, what is the main impact that you see coming from AI to CS, to customer, to the CSMs, and the future of CSMs?
Yeah. So just to put it into context, yeah, I'm coming to you from Vegas. I've been at the TSIA conference for the last 2.5 days. And I don't think there has been a session yet that has not talked about AI. So AI is not going away. In fact, get this, 3 out of 4 companies said that they expect to get 20% efficiency gain by implementing AI. That's huge. You know, when a CFO hears that, that means great. You need 20% fewer people. Okay. But here's the reality. Only 7% of companies have actually implemented AI in a meaningful way. So what does this mean? It means that expectations are very high, and it means that the reality hasn't yet reached those expectations. So what can we do as CS people, and what is the impact that AI is going to have? Like, there's no question that AI is going to change how we do customer success. No question. What we need to do is stop talking about CSMs being relationship managers. We need to stop talking about adoption managers. And what we need to, that was just in the past, right? Is no longer sufficient. What is going to work in the future is getting to business outcomes. Let me give you an example. Okay. Many companies today, think about like Salesforce. It's a huge organization. How do they price? They price based on seat. Okay. That seat-based pricing is going away because as businesses, like as a customer, if I'm paying based on my seat, it doesn't really communicate any value, right? So then other companies, what are they doing? Like even a lot of AI companies are doing token-based, usage-based pricing, right? That's a little bit closer, but still doesn't align to what I care about as a customer. I think the companies that are going to survive are ones that can shift their pricing models and how they engage away from seats, away from usage, and to actual business outcomes. Imagine if a customer came to you, Camilla, and said, I guarantee that if you buy my solution, I will improve your retention by 5% and I will decrease your cost by 12%. And I guarantee that. And if I don't do that, guess what? You don't pay me.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Like when you can get really good at measuring the customer's outcomes and you get confident in that, then eventually we shift our pricing away from things that don't matter toward the thing that does. Now we're both aligned to the same goal. We're both aligned to helping the customer be successful.
And conversations will be more insightful and strategic, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the key action that I would have, and I know we've just got a minute or two here. If you're listening,
no, we have more than that. Don't worry, we have more.
And you're a CSM, I'm going to invite you to do 3 things. Number 1, know what business outcomes your customer is trying to achieve? If you don't know that, go and find out today. Okay. In terms of metrics, we're talking about numbers. Okay. It's not like, oh, I want to improve my retention rate. No. What is the goal? What is the actual number that they're trying to move? Number two, I want you to make a minimum viable path from where they are to how they achieve that outcome. And number three, I want you to celebrate with your customer when you achieve that goal. If you do those three things, I guarantee you your retention is going to go up. If you don't know how to do these things, I actually offer a free 30-minute workshop. Any company that's interested in knowing how to shift from this old world of CS to this new world of CS, please look me up, send me a DM. I'm happy to help out.
Wow, what a big gift. And I do have a comment here that I'm going to bring in on the screen. But before that, you were mentioning about how to evolve the pricing structure of the services that companies offer. And it's so interesting because the beginning of this year, I started my own business. And one of the services that I looked after too was marketing. Say, hey, how I'm going to position myself as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, rather than a previous employee. You got to change, you got to work on your brand. And I reached out to a few marketing agencies, and the majority of them came to me with the same kind of a package. Oh, you're going to work, we're going to have a briefing discussion with you. We're going to understand what are your goals, and then we're going to, I don't know, work on that amount of posts for you, depending on the platform, and so on and so forth. It was like, okay, but I need to bring deals. I need to bring leads. How are you going to partner with me on this? Jared, none.
Yep.
None. It was like, no, I don't have any problems on paying for the service. That is out of discussion. So if I'm going after for a marketing agency, it's because I acknowledge I don't have those skills, and I really want to bring someone with those abilities to my business in order to leverage my business. But if you do not have a shared goal, how can you become my partner?
That's right.
That's exactly what
that's
you
an
said.
excellent example. And I guarantee you, every customer who buys software wishes and thinks just what you said. They said,
Absolutely.
I don't care about how many people log into the product or how often they use it. They want to achieve their business outcome. And if you can align your teams and align your goals toward that, then we'll make this transition very smoothly.
Absolutely. And people are tired of sales teams over promising solutions and under delivering results. We got to invert that equation. We got to start with the end goals of the customers and see how the solutions that the company currently have can actually deliver on those needs. So I love it. And just for us to wrap up here, because we have a minute left, but there was a message from Maria. Maria, thank you very much for attending the show today. She's kind of asking to share with her tools and workshops and methodologies. So Jared offered a free 30-minute workshop. So Jared, if you can kind of explain or tell people what is the best way to reach out to you and what this workshop is about. So I'm pretty sure that we'll not only address Maria's comment, but the whole audience interest on getting to learn more from you.
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is like tools are always secondary. There's a lot of different tools that can solve interesting problems. But the first piece is the methodology and the mindset. When you get that right, then you got teams and processes that are all aligned. Then you snap in the tools to help make that go more efficient. But biggest mistake I see is people get that inverted and they think, okay, well, if I just go buy a tool, then that will solve my problem. And I was like, no, actually, let's talk about the methodology first. You ask about methodology. There's a lot of different sales methodologies. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. I love one that's called selling by curiosity, selling through curiosity. But ultimately what it comes down to is understanding the customer's outcomes. If you're capturing that in a system and then you're measuring your progress toward that's all the methodology you need.
And this is actually at the end of the day, Jared, please keep me honest here. It's about a culture, right? So creating the culture of serving your clients rather than serving yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's why we had Jared Cook with us today from Crush Churn. Thank you so much. I know that you are kind of in a business trip, but thank you very much for taking the time and sharing all of this knowledge and recommendations. I'm pretty sure that whoever attended the live show and whoever is going to watch this later will get a lot of value from your wisdom and from your experience. So once again, thank you very much for being with us.
Mela, thank you. You've been great. Appreciate you as a host. Appreciate the time today. This has been a great conversation.
Absolutely. And for you all, so stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you so much.